All right, to watch this video for Wednesday, April 4th, the SPY right back up above the 200-day. We got quite the battle going on at the 200-day moving average. I'm going to slide this over real quick and show you. I'm going to go over, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to go over some of the highlights from today just to show you kind of what we do in the chat room. And I want to explain why, why we called what we called, all right? So let's just start at the top. EBIO, called it at 110. Let me pull that off there. Let's look at that. 5-minute candles. Initially, this opened right here and sold off a bit. And I called it long as it was on its way back up as a red to green, which was 110, and the worst case stop below the low of day at 106. It doesn't get much better than that as far as risk reward. 4 cents. And from the 110 trigger, it took about 30 minutes and it ended up ripping to 138, which is a huge percentage gain. The next one, LFIN, LFIN, called it 1101. It went to 1447. Let me show you this one. Now this was called, let me show you the daily first. Now this was just crazy beating. Let me take today's candle out of it. You can see it closed at its lows, by the way, but I'm going to take today's candle out of it. And this had fallen in like, what, 5 sessions from 74.50 down to 14 something. So, and then today gap down, which is actually something I prefer over a gap up when I'm looking for a bounce. So then we log in. Remember, I'm a big inflection point person with stacked catalysts above. In other words, I don't get involved unless a trade should work right away. All right. So these are 5-minute candles. It opens at 11:10 and sells off. It ends up we'll kind of go through the steps here. So a little bit of a bounce, and then it takes out the low of day. At this point, it doesn't sell off anymore. And you would expect, as beaten up as this is, and then it sells off at the open, and then goes sideways for a little bear flag and then takes out the lows, you would expect it's going to tank again, right? But then look what happens. Then it starts to come up and gets pretty close to the open. Remember, it opened at 11:10. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It ended up going right near that whole number. It went to like, what, 1094? Real close to 11. You know I love whole number inflection points with catalysts above. You had that here. So you got a really beaten up stock, then a gap down. Probably sucked in some more shorts as it took out the early lows here. So my call was, guys, if this gets through 11, you've got red to green and high of day just above and a possible gap to fill. I said this might run $2 or $3 if it gets through 11, and look what happens. So wait, there was the flag that it looked like when I called it, right? So it breaks 11, goes red to green, takes out the high of day, moves up so fast, by the way, that it halts, and then came out of the halt. So it did exactly what I wanted to. I got a whole bunch of thank yous in chat for it. Went to 1447, and that all happened in about maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So that was the reason for that call. Let's look at the next one. Tesla, 268, and it went to 273.35. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla gave a great opportunity, by the way, in pre-market, and I completely botched it. But anyway, so the big run in this one was in pre-market. Anyway, so it ends up opening all the way up near 270. I'm not going to do anything with it. And to me, there's no discernible setup here. But then what? It starts to look like it's going to come up and take out the highs. Tesla could have a lot of shorts trapped if it breaks the high of day. But at the same time, if it comes up here and takes out the high of day after like 5 or 6 or 7 green candles in a row, I don't love that, right? Because that's not a great proprietary sneaky entry where you're looking for a pullback after a move like that. I mean, it had moved from 262. About 260 all the way up to 268. So an $8 move, in like 30, 40 minutes, I just couldn't get involved anywhere, but it did something really nice here. It comes up and hits 268.02, pulls back, starts to flag, and when it started to curl back up, I said, guys, I like this over 268. It might move to the high of day and then maybe a squeeze, all right? So that was my call. And look at that. So this doesn't look like much, but as it hit 268, it went all the way to 273.35, a $5.35 move. And the worst case stop is always going to be, you can see there's like 5, the 8 period moving average on 5-minute candles. Once we break this flag, my worst case stop is going to go, below this candle, 266.69. I went ahead and just on the results page said worst case stop $2, which would be 266. But anyway. It ended up chopping around after that, but we got a $5 move, and you notice again, after the entry, within 5 or 10 minutes, we're really moving nicely. And that's the kind of entries that we try to find on a daily basis. And then lastly, SLS. And the funny thing about this one is, let me bring that back up. I didn't mean to hide that real quick. SLS 850 entry went to 1109, and you'll see again how this one worked right away. 259 a share. You'll notice in the description here, or the profit potential. Try to scroll over here. Well, I just made it smaller. So anyway, this was called by Jane. A whole bunch of us in chat follow Jane. A cool thing about our chat room is you can select members that consistently find great setups, and you can put them on your hot list, and you can set it up to give you an audible alert when anyone on your hot list posts something. Believe me, Jane is on my hot list, so when she posts something, I get an audible alert, and you can have everyone on your hot list also show up in a separate chat window from the rest of the chat room. So it's a very customizable chat room that becomes really your own scanner, your own market scanner. So Jane has been on my hot list for years, and she posted this idea of 850, and I'll show you why. And I wholeheartedly agreed with her, by the way. So this is the opening candle. This is the opening 5-minute candle right here. You see that it opened at 849, and it put in an early high of 881. Had a huge move yesterday. Yesterday's low was like, I don't know, 550, and it went all the way to 1069. So a huge move yesterday, and it actually held up pretty well. Small gap down today. Jane's idea was back through the open, so it sells off, comes back up. So it opened at 849, so 850. And remember, we like catalysts above. So as it goes red to green, you look just above would be a possible high of day break at 882. As nicely as this moved yesterday, there's a good chance after red to green we break the high of day, and then maybe maybe through yesterday's close, which is right about there. So you kind of have two reasons for a high of day break to be relevant, and then off to the races, and look what happens. I mean, these are 5-minute candles, so within 10 minutes you're up $2. Another perfect example of an inflection point trade with catalysts above. We try to find you these on a daily basis. So there you go. That's the highlights from today explained. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to shoot me an email. But I'm going to go into the watch list for tomorrow now. EBIO. I already showed you that one, how we called it, how I called it at $1.10 this morning. It ended up having a massive volume day for this stock, closing fairly strong, but kind of nicely off its highs as well. Maybe a red to green in that one tomorrow. Certainly worth watching. TNDM has been, it kind of broke out of this little flag here. Right after this pop, it went sideways for like a month, then broke out. Looked like it was maybe going to roll back over, test the moving average or something yesterday, and then right back up. So kind of have a tight little flag. It feels a little bit extended, but this one can move at times. Tricky traders, so be careful with it, but certainly want to watch it tomorrow. Spotify came public today. SPOT came public around 166, hit a high of what, 169, and look at that, ended up falling $20 from there. So there's no chart to go on here. But so much volume, 30 million shares. You could argue that it's really beaten up on an intraday, or not on an intraday, but on the only chart we have to go on, which is 1 day. So we might get a bounce in it tomorrow. But again, this isn't something that I look at and say, "Oh, I love it," if it gets to and give you a price. I don't. I just want to watch it tomorrow because so many people are watching it. All right. CASI, 3.4 million shares traded and a big breakout today. Now I don't like to call stuff that's had a huge move like this because the next day they rarely pop again, right? But I do want to watch this one all week, and sometimes on rare occasions you get a nice setup the very next day and a follow-through day. BlackBerry was on Bounce Watch today. No trigger, no trade. It didn't give us any kind of setup, but it just goes back on Bounce Watch tomorrow. Do have some price support between 10 and 1050 from November and December, and it's gotten to this area in a hurry. So pretty good setup for a bounce tomorrow. We'll see. Rent-A-Center, RCII, nice volume pop today. The news on this one was there's several offers I guess, to buy the company or something. I don't think the news release had any prices or anything, but it certainly held up well after the announcement. So I want to watch that one tomorrow. And a couple more. Dropbox, very strong today, closing at its highs. Not a lot of chart to go on because of recent IPO, but I want to watch that one and type that wrong. AEHR. Nothing really pretty here, but in after hours, this went up to like 270. It looked like it settled in at 241, which isn't much of a gap up anymore, but they did have news, so I want to watch AEHR as a potential gapper. And we'll add other gappers to this list as well. Check the description down below. That little arrow should be pointing down to the description below the video on YouTube. offering our 2004 price on a lifetime membership to our chat room. So please check that out. I honestly don't think you'll believe it when you see it. But we're trying to get as many people, trying to rescue as many people as we can from the rooms out there that teach you to chase, from the chat rooms out there that that teach you to chase or teach you to buy the opening print, or all these stabs in the dark coin flip type trading. We want to teach people to trade when it makes sense, when you should be green right away. So check that special out. I'm going to quit babbling. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a good night.